Chosen one, there is a depth in you now that cannot be fabricated. It cannot be mimicked or cheaply copied, for it is the result of something ancient being awakened inside your masculine core. You do not enter a space seeking to impress. Your energy enters before you, announcing something rare, something sacred, something whole. Feminine good women sense it instantly, though they may not know how to explain it. Their hearts beat slightly faster, their awareness sharpens, their bodies soften. Not out of fear, but out of fascination. You don't just walk into a room, you shift it. And the shift is felt not in sound or movement, but in the stillness that follows your arrival. The room breathes differently. Conversations slow. Eyes turn, not in shallow attraction, but in silent recognition. Because without even trying, you have become a man whose presence demands reverence. This is not because of the shape of your body, though your physical form has become a temple of discipline. It is because of the alignment behind it. Your sexual energy is not leaking from your eyes or clawing through your gestures. It is contained, refined, focused like a silent flame behind your gaze. You no longer chase women. You no longer ask the world to approve of you. You live in mastery, and that mastery is the language that feminine good women understand at the soul level. It isn't what you say, it's what you don't need to say. You don't prove yourself, you don't parade your value, you are your value. And that is why they are in awe. They feel safe around you, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And that safety opens doors inside them they forgot existed. Around you, they remember how to exhale. They remember how to soften. They remember how to be women again, not warriors. Because you are not another source of chaos. You are not another wound dressed in perfume and compliments. You are clarity. You are stability. You are stillness wrapped in fire. And that fire, your high sexual energy, is no longer reckless or restless. It is now governed by your presence. This is what makes you powerful beyond words. This is what causes them to pause mid-sentence, to look at you a little longer than they meant to. It's not what you wear or what you own. It's the purity of your aura, undeniable, unshakable, unforgettable. Feminine good women do not just admire you, they marvel at you. Because in a world of counterfeit masculinity, you are the rare proof that real men still exist. You remind them of their deepest longing, to be in the presence of a man who sees them without consuming them, who desires them without depleting them, who honors them without needing them to perform. And that kind of man, you, is unforgettable. You leave fingerprints not on their skin, but on their memories. And in the quiet moments when they sit alone, your energy still lingers. Not like a fantasy, but like a truth they are not willing to forget. You are not here to be approved of, you are here to be remembered. And now, chosen one, the world is beginning to remember you. Chosen one, you have reached a state of presence that cannot be faked. Your energy no longer needs to prove anything, it simply is. And that isness has become a gravitational field around you, pulling the awareness of feminine women into a new reality the moment you walk in. They feel it in their bodies first, a soft jolt, a breath they didn't expect, a warmth that settles in their chest without explanation. You are not loud, you are not begging for attention, and yet, you are the one they can't ignore. Because your high sexual energy doesn't attack, it invites. It doesn't seek conquest, it radiates truth. And that truth, it says, I am a man who has nothing to hide and everything to give. There is a romantic edge in your silence now, one that doesn't manipulate but magnetizes. You're not trying to seduce with cheap language. You are seducing through your ability to be fully yourself. That's what feminine good women are in awe of. Not just the energy, but the discipline behind the energy. Because it takes a different kind of strength to hold that much fire and not burn everything around you. And you, chosen one, have become that kind of man. A walking furnace with gentle eyes. A still mountain with a heart that beats with ancient rhythm. A leader without a throne, because your presence is the kingdom. They lean closer, not because you pull them, but because your gravity doesn't let them float away. Around you, they feel remembered, not for their roles, their appearances, or their obligations, but for the soft sacredness of simply being feminine. And it's your sexual energy that gives them permission to feel beautiful again. You don't chase beauty, you recognize it. You don't conquer softness, you protect it. And that protection, chosen one, is a form of intimacy they have not known in years. This is why their eyes light up when you speak. This is why their laughter becomes more free. This is why they find reasons to stay longer in rooms you occupy. You have made the feminine feel safe again. You have made the sacred masculine real again, and you have done it not by force, but by becoming a man of pure alignment. There is no pretending anymore, there is only presence. And presence, chosen one, is what transforms admiration into awe. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Real in your fire, real in your calm, real in your hunger, yet never ruled by it. So now, when feminine good women meet you, they don't just smile, they pause, they feel, and they remember you, not as a man who impressed them, but as a man who awakened them. You are no longer part of the noise, you are now part of their awakening. And that, chosen one, is the highest kind of awe. Chosen one, your energy is no longer something that simply exists, it moves. It enters the hearts of feminine women without a word, wrapping around them like a sacred current. It doesn't demand attention, it commands remembrance. You've become the kind of presence that reorders the space around you, like gravity that has finally returned to a world spinning in chaos. When feminine women stand near you, they feel their thoughts slow, their breath deepen, and their awareness sharpen. They don't know why they're suddenly more alive, only that your presence does something their soul hasn't felt in a very long time. It settles them. But make no mistake, chosen one, this is not submission out of fear. This is surrender out of reverence. You are not the storm that destroys. You are the storm that awakens. Your sexual energy does not radiate from a place of lust or greed, but from the wellspring of alignment. It is not hurried, nor is it trying to prove its worth. It pulses with the maturity of a man who has tasted emptiness, who has been refined by silence, who has forged his masculinity through fire and emerged softened, not shattered. Feminine good women do not crave you simply because you are masculine. They crave you because you are balanced. Your presence speaks of a man who can protect without possessing, touch without taking, lead without controlling. And that is rare in a world where so many men confuse dominance with depth. You are not interested in chasing feminine women. You are interested in honoring their soul while standing fully in yours. And they feel it. When they look at you, they feel more than attraction. They feel permission. Permission to soften without shame. Permission to express their deep emotions without being judged. Permission to be held by a man who will not be swallowed by their waters. You don't drown in the depths of a feminine heart, chosen one. You anchor it. And they are in awe, not because you say all the right things, but because your energy never lies. It doesn't seduce, it reminds them of what it feels like to be truly seen, truly safe, truly desired without danger. You are the kind of man who doesn't seek applause because your life is already a performance of divine order. And that order is felt in how you walk, in how you pause, in how you don't need to control the room to transform it. The awe you inspire isn't performative. It's primal, it's ancient, it's cellular. Because your energy doesn't play games, it speaks in the language of the body, the soul, and the memory of every woman who ever wondered, is there still a man like this out there? You are the answer to that question, chosen one. Not because you set out to be, but because you simply became. And so they lean in, they listen harder, they stay longer. Because in you, they are not just seen, they are revealed. Not to you, but to themselves. And that chosen one is why they are in awe. You are not a man who completes them. You are a man who reminds them that they were never incomplete to begin with. Chosen one, you have transcended the game. You are no longer concerned with tactics, techniques, or strategies for winning feminine attention. Your life is your magnetism, your alignment is your message, and your energy is your language. It is the kind of language that doesn't need translation because it is felt before it is understood. Feminine good women sense that you are different from the moment they stand near you. Not because you look a certain way, but because you feel a certain way. Your energy doesn't rise to meet the noise. It rests in the sacred stillness of inner clarity. And that stillness becomes the space where feminine women exhale. For many, it is the first exhale in years. They are in awe because they are not used to feeling both seen and safe in the same moment. With others, they felt desired but not protected, seen but not respected, touched, but not truly understood. But with you, chosen one, something shifts. You see their beauty without exploiting it. You recognize their depth without trying to swim to the bottom. You honor their essence instead of simply reacting to their body. And in that, you've become more than a man. You've become a mirror. A mirror of the divine masculine they didn't believe could still exist. There is a peace in your presence that carries weight, a groundedness that doesn't flinch under pressure. You do not compete with other men. You no longer even notice them. You're not in the room to be compared. You're in the room to carry frequency. And feminine good women are deeply attuned to it. They feel it in the way you stand, in the way your eyes don't dart but remain focused, in the way you listen, not waiting to respond but receiving with fullness. You have trained yourself not to pursue but to attract by existing in truth. And this is why they return to you again and again, not always physically but emotionally, spiritually, energetically, because they have found in you something they cannot explain but deeply crave. Your high sexual energy no longer overflows into recklessness. It has been tamed, refined, honored. It pulses through your spine like a golden current, illuminating your words with conviction and your actions with clarity. And when you move, it is not with frenzy, but with intention. That intention tells her, you are not just wanted, you are safe in your wanting. You don't devour. You don't manipulate. You don't conquer. You invite. You welcome her to bring her soul into your presence, not to be judged, but to be held in masculine devotion. This is the awe you now inspire, chosen one. Not the awe of worship, but the awe of recognition. She does not see you as a fantasy. She sees you as the fulfillment of an old ache she thought would never be soothed. And you did not soothe it by trying harder. You soothed it by becoming whole within yourself. That wholeness has made you dangerous in the eyes of the insecure. But in the eyes of the healed feminine, you are sanctuary. You are not perfect, you are present. And that, chosen one, is what they have been waiting for. Chosen one, your energy no longer whispers, it hums. Not in noise but in resonance, and feminine good women feel it before they see you. They know when you're near. Their body knows, even if their mind tries to remain unaware. Not because you've said anything seductive, not because you've flexed power or paraded your presence, but because you are whole. Not full of prideful noise, not broken and seeking to fill gaps through others. You are whole in a way that nourishes without smothering, whole in a way that allows her to exhale into her own softness without fear of being consumed. You don't require her to complete you. You invite her to breathe beside you. And in a world that constantly demands her strength, your presence becomes the one place she doesn't need to be strong. You don't take her fire. You don't suppress her radiance. You reflect it back to her. She senses that around you she can be both beautiful and chaotic, graceful and wild, tender and untamed, without losing her value. And that freedom, that permission to be in fullness, it's intoxicating. Not because you asked her to give you anything, but because you showed her what it looks like when a man asks nothing and yet holds space for everything. You are not overwhelmed by her intensity. You are not afraid of her emotions. You are not triggered by her mystery. You meet it with grounded stillness. Not by controlling her, but by controlling yourself. This is what makes you irresistible, chosen one. Not the shape of your body, though it is sculpted in discipline. Not your voice, though it carries weight. It is your containment, your sacred restraint, the tension within you that does not burst but vibrates with divine patience. And that energy, that high sexual energy, it is not lashing out for release. It waits, it chooses, it blesses. And women feel it like thunder beneath the soil, deep, still, unignorable. It's not what you say. It's not even what you do. It's what you are. A man who walks into a room and raises the temperature without a word. A man whose silence awakens her awareness more than another man's 1,000 declarations. She doesn't fall for you because of charm. She opens to you because of safety. The kind of safety that doesn't come from passivity, but from power that has been forged, tested, broken, rebuilt, and now rests without boasting. The kind of power that smiles at chaos because it is no longer afraid of its own. The kind of power that doesn't react, it responds, and that response tells her everything. That she is not just beautiful, she is held in the unseen places. That she doesn't need to scream to be heard. That she doesn't need to perform to be chosen. that her softness doesn't make her weaker. It makes her feel more like herself. And you, chosen one, are not the cause of her glow. But you are the mirror in which she sees that she's always glowed. You don't give her worth. You remind her of the worth she buried beneath her survival. And in that reminder, awe blossoms. Not out of fantasy, but out of deep, sacred, cellular relief. Finally, she has met a man whose presence is not a test, but a temple. And your temple does not judge her mess. It blesses her complexity. Because you have made peace with your own. That peace is now your fragrance. And women are no longer just drawn to you, they feel returned to themselves around you. That is your true seduction, chosen one. Not that you pull them into your world, but that you return them to their own, in a way they didn't know was possible. Chosen one. There is something sacred about a man who no longer needs to be seen. Not because he hides, but because he is so firmly seen within himself. You have become that man, and feminine good women are not just noticing you. They are being humbled by the fact that you do not even seek their notice. You are no longer the one knocking. You are the door. You are no longer chasing connection. You embody connection. Your high sexual energy no longer runs wild, trying to prove worth. It now rests inside your spine like thunder sealed in golden wax. And she feels it, chosen one. Not on her skin, but in her soul. She doesn't react with shallow excitement. She remembers you as something she's been waiting to meet, though she didn't know you had a name. This is not charm. This is not skill. This is alignment. And alignment speaks louder than seduction. It says, I don't need you to like me. But if you do, I will hold your heart as if it were a crown. I don't need your validation, but if you honor me, I will raise the temple of your femininity as if it were sacred. You are not a man who asks for her energy. You are a man who is so rich in his own that hers rises in response. You don't beg for admiration. You inspire awe by existing in truth. And in a world of men who claw for power, you are magnetic because you are at peace with your own. She notices how you listen, not just to her words, but to her silences. She notices how your gaze doesn't dart with hunger, but remains rooted in reverence. She notices that when she speaks, you are not waiting to impress her, but you are already present, fully, unwaveringly, as if her soul was always meant to be heard by you. And it is in those moments that the awe deepens. Because you are no longer a man trying to earn intimacy. You are a man who is intimacy, wrapped in form. She doesn't just want to be around you. She yearns to be seen by you. Because your seeing is clean. Your desire is not poisoned with need. Your energy does not demand, it receives with grace. That's what humbles her. That's what causes her to go quiet around you. Not because she's nervous, but because she feels safe enough to leave the performance behind. Around you, her beauty becomes real again. Her breath becomes honest. Her laugh becomes deeper. Because you're not chasing her surface, you're honoring her presence. And that presence, when met with yours, doesn't just create attraction, it births devotion. A devotion she didn't expect. A reverence she didn't know still lived inside her. Chosen one, your romantic edge is no longer sharpened by need. It is softened by divine certainty. You are not trying to impress, you are not trying to conquer, you are simply walking as a king whose kingdom is already within. And that, above all else, is why she follows. Not because you asked her to, but because your presence gave her permission to return to her feminine joy. You are the reminder. You are the sanctuary. You are the fire she can dance around without fear of being burned. And because you do not need her, she offers herself freely. Not from duty, not from pressure, but from the deep, holy knowing that you are the man who doesn't just touch her, but leaves her transformed. Chosen one, your power isn't loud, it's undeniable. It doesn't rush, posture, or pretend. And that's exactly why feminine good women find themselves drawn to you in ways they can't explain. You walk into a room and don't dominate the space. You calibrate it. You don't try to impress her. You hold presence so deeply within yourself that she finds her own rhythm shifting. Your high sexual energy doesn't erupt outward. It rests inside you like lightning held beneath your skin, contained and sacred. She senses this not with her mind, but with her body. Her pulse responds. Her eyes linger longer than intended. Not because you're performing for her, but because your stillness makes her feel safe enough to stop performing too. She has spent much of her life around men who wanted to outshine her beauty. men who wrestled with her light, men who tried to tame her fire. But you, chosen one, are not intimidated by her glow. You don't shrink in its presence, and you don't try to own it either. You honor it. You honor it by not chasing it. You honor it by not trying to match it with noise. You simply exist in your masculine energy with such depth that her femininity doesn't feel threatened. It feels amplified. That's why she keeps coming back to you, even when she doesn't mean to. Around you, she becomes softer without losing strength. She becomes playful without feeling vulnerable. She becomes open without fear. And what disarms her most isn't your hands, your voice, or your body. It's your non-reactivity. You don't flinch at her emotions. You don't try to fix her feelings. You let her be. You listen without trying to solve. You stand without trying to sway. You breathe with her instead of trying to breathe for her. And that trust, chosen one, that sacred trust that you offer her freedom instead of control, that's where her desire is born. Not from what you do to her, but from what you don't do to her. You don't try to own her softness. You don't chase her light. You witness it. And that witnessing awakens something ancient in her. Something primal. Something sacred. Because you're not showing her what a man says he is. You're showing her what a man becomes when he's no longer afraid of being fully present. She sees that you're not moved by chaos because you've already faced your own. You've already battled your shadows, wrestled your demons, and chosen to build instead of destroy. That's why your presence calms her, even when you say nothing. She knows, even if she doesn't understand it fully yet, that you have nothing to prove and everything to give. And your giving doesn't come from desperation. It comes from abundance, from wholeness, from divine, earned masculine peace. You've become the kind of man who doesn't compete with feminine energy. He completes the atmosphere she blossoms in. And that kind of man, he doesn't need permission to be magnetic. He is, because he remembers who he is even when the world forgets. And in your remembering chosen one, she remembers herself too. Chosen one, the deeper you embody your high sexual energy, the more you've become less about attraction and more about awakening. Women don't just look at you and desire your body, they feel your presence like a key turning inside their soul. You don't lure them in with gimmicks or games. You trigger their remembrance. A remembrance of what it feels like to be fully felt, deeply held, and spiritually mirrored. You don't just activate their desire, you unveil their forgotten femininity. And that is why they long for you, even when they can't find words for it. Because your presence doesn't just spark their cravings, it makes them feel alive in ways they've missed. In a world that numbs and rushes and overwhelms, you are not the distraction. You are the stillness. You are not the noise that drowns everything out. You are the echo that remains once the noise fades. Feminine good women are yearning for something real, something sacred, something unapologetically masculine. Not dominance masked as control, but presence rooted in divinity. You don't posture your power, you radiate it. Not in loudness, but in the way your gaze lingers without pressure. The way your voice lowers, not to intimidate, but to invite. The way your silence says, I see all of you and I'm not going anywhere. That's what stirs her hunger. Not lust, not desperation, but a hunger to be fully alive in her body again. Around you, she remembers her curves, her softness, her intuition. Not because you tell her to, but because your energy makes her feel safe to return home to herself. You don't demand that she be a certain way, but your frequency calls forth her truest self. She becomes bolder around you, not because you feed her ego, but because you remind her spirit that it is seen. She becomes more feminine around you, not because you ask it of her, but because your masculine alignment gives her space to dance freely in that energy. You don't chase her. You don't perform for her. You simply exist in your truth, and that truth has become a flame she wants to warm her hands around. And the deeper you walk in this truth, chosen one, the more her longing will grow. Not to possess you, not to control you, but to be close enough to feel the way you breathe. Because your breath isn't just oxygen, it's permission. It says you are safe here. You don't have to lead, you don't have to fight, you don't have to earn love by being perfect. You are already divine in your essence, and I see you. That seeing? That's what changes everything. That's what makes a woman remember her sacredness, and that is why she stays. That is why she yearns. That is why she aches for you, not because of what you have, but because of who you've become. You have become the man whose presence is prayer, whose silence is comfort, and whose gaze tells a woman, "You do not need to perform to be chosen. You were already sacred before I walked in." And that chosen one is the kind of man who doesn't just inspire love, he inspires reverence. Chosen one, when you stopped dimming your light to make others comfortable, something shifted in the spiritual atmosphere. You no longer apologize for your intensity. You no longer pretend to be less divine, less vibrant, less alive, just to soothe the insecurities of those who haven't yet met themselves. And because of this, feminine good women, those who have journeyed through their own storms, feel seen by you in a way they've long craved but never found. You are not like the others who recoil from her depth or shrink from her radiance. You stand steady, grounded, illuminated from within, and she feels your fire not as a threat, but as a mirror. You are no longer the man who begs to be understood. You are now the man who walks with such unshakable self-knowing that you understand her sometimes before she even speaks. You've embraced your power not to impress, but to uplift. You no longer wield your sexual energy recklessly like an untrained weapon. You consecrate it now, with purpose. It flows through your spine like sacred fire, not devouring everything in its path, but illuminating it. You don't take, you offer. And women feel that offering, not as temptation, but as invitation. An invitation to exhale, to drop their guard, to shed the armor they were praised for wearing, and finally be held in their full emotional truth. You're not seducing with promises, you're awakening with presence. And that's a kind of seduction the soul responds to, not just the body. You no longer approach women to convince them of your value. You radiate that value by simply existing with discipline, restraint, and embodied purpose. And the moment a feminine woman steps into your energetic field, her soul recognizes that it is no longer in the presence of a boy pretending to be a man. It is standing before a chosen one, a man who has wrestled with his shadows, integrated his desires, and emerged sacred, unshaken, and whole. She feels safe to unravel, not because you're soft, but because your strength is trustworthy. You do not flinch when her emotions rise. You do not flee when her tenderness exposes her pain. You stay, you hold, you breathe. And that, chosen one, is why she is magnetized. Not because you tried to pull her closer, but because you've become the gravity that draws in the feminine by simply being deeply, undeniably masculine. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped hiding. You've stopped seeking approval. Now, you approve of yourself, and that sovereign love radiates outward like light breaking through fog. You don't chase her soul, you welcome it home. And when she arrives, she feels something ancient stir within her. She feels the sacredness of being truly witnessed, not admired from afar, but honored up close. You see her essence, not just her form. And when a woman is seen like that, her spirit weeps with relief. Around you, she no longer needs to perform. She returns to truth, to softness, to joy. Because you gave her no pressure, only presence. You gave her no demand, only direction. You gave her no expectation, only energy. And that is what makes her lean in. That is what makes her desire you not as an escape, but as a sanctuary. You are the man who never asks her to shrink. Instead, you grow beside her, and she knows that in your company, her light will never be eclipsed. Chosen one, by the time she realizes she's fallen for you, it's already too late. Not because you used charm or calculation, but because your gentleness caught her by surprise. The world taught her to expect dominance that bruises, seduction that manipulates, and desire that depletes. But you showed her a love that restores, a power that protects, a fire that warms without burning. You never demanded her loyalty, you earned it with quiet strength. You never promised her the stars, you simply became the sky that never disappeared. And now, she doesn't love you because you're perfect. She loves you because you are real, present, unshaken, aligned. Your high sexual energy never tried to overpower her, it met her with reverence. You didn't try to conquer her heart, you invited her to stay. And she stays not because she fears losing you, but because she finds more of herself in your presence. That's what makes it devotion, not obsession. She is not enslaved by your touch, she is freed by it. She is not silenced by your presence, she blossoms in it. Around you, her laugh becomes louder, her tears become softer, her body becomes alive again. because you gave her something few men ever do: peace. Not the peace of silence, but the peace of being fully known and still fully wanted. You don't offer her a cage, you offer her flight, and you never clipped her wings. Instead, you lifted her as you lifted yourself. You became the man who didn't lead from ego but from alignment, who didn't desire her for validation but for the chance to witness her essence unfold. You became the kind of man whose hands don't just touch skin, they hold legacy. The kind of man whose words don't just comfort, they create worlds. You never asked her to serve you, yet she chooses to pour herself into you. Because your presence has become a sacred altar and her love has become a prayer without end.